should I even have the, respect of, the peers in wine that get up and do this every day? Or am I just using my celebrity? I'm doing all of that. How about that? But I do love wine, and I want to do, I'm doing, and I love wine, and I want my mama's name to be recognized. And so deal with it.
My guest today, Cedric the Entertainer, is a super cool dude who has a long history of succeeding in various areas of the entertainment industry. He grew up in Missouri. His mom was a school teacher, and his dad worked for the Missouri Pacific Railroad. Now, Cedric earned a degree in communications from Southern Missouri State University, but it wasn't until he was age 31 that he really decided to move into acting. He finally decided, I want to be an actor. He also got into stand-up comedy, obviously, and finally made a name for himself nationally by becoming the host of Def Comedy Jam, as well as BET's Comic View. This led to his breakout role, co-starring alongside Steve Harvey in The Steve Harvey Show. And Cedric also went on to produce, direct, and act in an expansive list of projects across television and film while keeping up as a premier stand-up comic. The list is very long, but a few notable examples include him starring in The Barbershop, hosting Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and voice acting for roles in Ice Age, Charlotte's Web, and the Madagascar film series, among many, many, many others. Now today, Cedric the Entertainer continues to make his mark in Hollywood. In 2019, he was honored with a place on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and is currently executive producing and starring in the hit ABC comedy, The Neighborhood. He's also hosting and executive producing the greatest at-home videos and executive producing a Bounce TV dramedy, Johnson. And recently, executive produced and hosted the 73rd Annual Primetime Emmy Awards. He's recorded comedic interludes on 2 Nelly albums and on Jay-Z's The Black Album. I didn't even know that's so cool. Cedric seems to be everywhere all at once, whether it's TV, film, stand-up comedy, music, author, or even creating wine. He's always working on a new project, and I can definitely relate to his passion and love for doing so many different things in life and doing them all at the highest level. Now, this comes from following your deepest desires, your passion in life, and living your truth, hard work, self-discipline, and perseverance. Success does not just land in your lap. Nobody's born successful. So, Cedric, thanks for taking the time to be on my podcast, The Kenny Aronoff Sessions. I love that you didn't start acting until you were 31 and have accomplished so much since then, man. That's amazing.
What up, Kenny? How you doing, brother? It's good, man. Yeah. My mother was a school teacher, so education was a big part of our household. So, I did the kind of the trajectory. She raised us in a single parent household. My dad, was moved and was remarried and lived differently. So, my mother being an educator. So, that trajectory back then was go to school, get your degree, get a corporate job. And so I had followed that path. I followed that path in life. I was working for State Farm. I'd done some stuff where I was working for Ricoh Corporation, selling fax machines early in the early days of the fax machine. And then, but always was an entertainer, man, always a person that loved to make people laugh. And so, I was later in life when somebody told me, like, man, you could do this, like, you could actually do it. And so, I probably was like 27, 28 when I first tried comedy, and probably didn't really hit till I was in my 30s. Yes, for sure.
Dude, I can relate, because I grew up where my mom was a school teacher too. And my dad worked at a paper mill. And that's what you did back then. You go to college, you get an education, and you make money. And my thing, I was always in music, but my thing, I went into classical music because there was no School of Rock back then. And I got into the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra after just 5 years of intensive training I went to, you probably know where Bloomington, Indiana is, Midwest. And that was the #1 school of music for classical. But
that's where you got to go train for State Farm in Bloomington, Bloomington.
Yeah, there's a Bloomington, Illinois, and there's a Bloomington, Indiana. Yeah, IU, Bobby Knight, Anyway, though, I could totally relate, to this, I turned down the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra to follow my heart. I mean, I stayed music, but I decided I'm going to do rock and roll. I mean, I turned down certainty, a paycheck, for complete uncertainty, because, let's see, how do you get into Led Zeppelin? I mean, who do you call, right? So, but that's what I can relate to that whole journey. And that's why I mentioned, you followed your passion, you followed your truth. But that foundation that you got from that education is, you know, that's so cool. Was that a scary move when you went, I can't do this anymore kind of thing? Or how did that go down?
Well, of course, I mean, because you're in that stage of life where you feel like you need to be either staying solid on solid ground, like I got a trajectory where I'm moving upward. I'm getting little promotions here and there. So, you're on this kind of move. And that was one of the things that happened. Of course, comedy started to really blow up, especially like in the late '80s, early '90s for African Americans, because shows like Apollo, and then eventually Def Jam, and then Comic View. These start to give you this other kind of opportunity to get exposure. And so, it was one of those choices where you're like, well, do I stay at a job that's a cool job and keep moving up and knowing that my salary is going to jump from here to there, or just go for it, right? And I did it right though, because I took my time. I built a good career base with my stand up while keeping my job. And I'd let people, get to know me. And I would travel on the weekends, or I would take a week off and go somewhere and get known, like go and do a show somewhere and then come back to work and make sure that people, I had it all going. And so when I kind of got to that tipping point where it was like, yo, I can do the safe thing, and this is gonna be a little rougher, but it's more my passion. I just made the leap, but I did it with strategy though. I had a comedy club that would book. They had 22 clubs around the country, and if you got in with them, they would book you twice a year. So that's 44 dates. Now I was the opening act at like 300, 350 a week, but it was 44 of them. And so, like for 44, I could figure out how to make it. And I ain't rich, but I'm not broke either, right? So I'm just gonna make this chance and go for my dreams, and that's what I did.
That's smart. I bet your mom supported you no matter what you did because she saw you working hard. You weren't just doing it like you were smart about it, and she understood that, right?
Yeah, again, like you said, they just from she was probably the first in her family, was I think one of the seconds to go to college and go work and be a person of kind of climbing out of that generation of how you build your family up, and so for her, she was probably, I know, early on a little scared because this is strictly the unknown, right? It's not, you and I, we do things where it's strictly our passion, and your life chances come by how good you are, and are you ready when the opportunity shows up, right? You don't really get to pick it. It's like, yo, like this opportunity came. If you're ready and you look like you're ready to roll, then you're gonna be in the mix. And like out of nowhere, you will go from 0 to 100, like pow, and that's kind of what she saw me do comedy. Early in one of my careers. One I always love this story because, again, she's a serious person, school teacher, but when I was letting her know I really wanted to do comedy, I told her a joke I'd written. We were sitting at our house in St. Louis where I grew up, and she was standing in the kitchen, and I told this joke to her, and she laughed so hard she went to the ground. And she was all the way down on the floor, like, oh, and I was like, yes. And that's when I think she knew, like, okay, all right, go ahead. So it was a beautiful thing.
The thing is, do you remember that feeling of, it took me a long time to go, like, when you have a job, like you said you had, you knew what your paycheck was
Yeah.
each week, month to month. You knew you could go, okay, my trajectory is I'll make this much money this year, then that. But in our business, when you get into the arts, it's like, what am I got next year on the books? Nothing. Isn't that the weirdest? Like, whoa. And then you get a mortgage, and then you get a car payment, and you're like, but I have nothing. And I remember I'd be hearing from people, don't worry, you always work. Yeah, but it's not there. It's like scary.
And it's funny, and because it comes with also, like you say, you can have a run where you're like out on tour, and you're out with John Mellencamp or somebody, right? You out on the road, and then the next year he might not tour, and you'll be like, "Yo!" Everybody think you're famous and already rich because they saw you in this big environment, and they're like, "Oh, you got it." And you're like, "Nah, my man, he not touring this year. He chilling." And now I'm like, that's how I get, man. That's how I get money. Like when we out there. So it's these things that people don't know, like the anxiety of being like this kind of entertainer that's kind of running from show to show and situation to situation. But you wouldn't trade it. Like once you have it and really like embrace it, it is, a lot of ways a manifestation of allowing yourself to breathe and recognizing that it will be all right and that you can, your talent will lead you, and then usually great opportunities come, man.
You said the key word. I mean, belief, and belief comes from your heart. You can call it spiritual, whatever you want to call it. If it's just an idea, a thought, that ain't belief. You have to really believe it, because when you believe it, man, it comes to you. Dude, you remind me of a story. We were flying around Mellencamp, private jets, selling out every arena and every city in America. And all of a sudden, the last show up there in Milwaukee, at Milwaukee Fest, John goes, "I'm quitting. I'm quitting for 3 years. I just gotten divorced. I had a child." And I went, "What?" I never saw it coming. It was like 8 years of like, bam. All of a sudden, but there was a gift in there that I wasn't aware of. So that night, I'm freaking out, like great way to end the tour. Next morning, I wake up. You know what? I've been working for one famous guy for 8 years. Now I'm going to go work with all the other ones.
Yeah.
And that I came out to LA, and slowly but surely I created my second career, session drummer.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting called. People started hiring me at drums in New York, Nashville, LA, Indiana, of course, Japan, and Germany. There was a gift in there, but I certainly didn't see it when he said I quit, because I was like, oh my God, if he doesn't work, I don't work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, man.
It's like, wow. But that's scary. But there's always, if you've got that right mindset, you go, okay, if I can't do this, I can do something else. And anyway, so I want to pivot into something that you and I have in common. And it's not drumming, it's not comedy, and it's not acting, that's for sure. I can't do any of that. Well, no, I can drum, but so we both have a mutual appreciation for fine wine, and we both have our own wine with the same winemaker, Ian Smith of Smith Devereux in Napa Valley.
Let's go.
And that was crazy, because I went to that party for was it the Essies at the top of, I think, the rooftop of the Roosevelt Hotel in Hollywood. And that's where I met you.
Yeah.
And he was pouring you wine, and you have two wines. You have a 2019 Seta Napa Valley Red and a 2022 Seta Napa Valley White. And what I love about this, I read that this is in honor of your mom, Rosetta B. Kiles, and her legacy. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
That is so cool, man.
Yeah, again, my mother was one that, she wasn't a heavy drinker, but she did, she would, as a form of relaxation, have a little glass of wine, and she would always go, toast a glass with a touch of class. That was her little thing, and that one little thing, right? And she probably wouldn't even finish that, but that was her libation of choice, a nice little wine, and that's all she would want. And so, when having the opportunity, she passed in 2015, and having the opportunity to think about, like, of course, Ian is a great spirit. Like, he's like a really kind human being, funny as hell. And we just kind of hit it off. And, he loves to do something that has a charity component. So, so in the idea of like thinking, oh man, this would be a great tribute to my mom, is to make a wine, let people have this beautiful taste. She was a beautiful redhead, so that's why we went with the Napa Red first. So we did, the Napa Valley red grapes, and then we got the Californians coming out now. So that's the California Reds and the California Setas. And then I did a whole legacy thing. I did one for my sister too. My Napa. Yeah, that's my sister Sharita.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's a Napa White, beautiful blend.
That's so cool. I mean, you know what's cool? You're right. Ian is about connecting and wine. I mean, what better way to connect is to drink with somebody or people to be drinking, let's say, your wine and thinking about you and your mom and the charity.
Yeah.
It's real cool. My wine is it's called Uncommon Wine, which is on my arm is a tattoo that says Uncommon,
Okay.
and then the bottle is called Uncommon. It's kind of a picture of me. It's isn't that cool?
You had the Tom Fords already when you took this picture, man? What's going on?
No, those are diesels. Those are so I
I
think
was gonna
I
say, Tom Ford really are gonna owe you if you got that popping off, man. They should.
hey, whoever wants to sponsor me, man, I'll
Okay.
put them front and center.
I know that's right.
Yeah, so mine's a blend. It's a you know what it is? Ian smartly just kept sending me bottles with no labels, and I kept picking the same one. And I like this the best. I like this best. Says, you know, you keep picking the same wine. And what it is Syrah and a Cab blend, 50-50.
Yeah.
I like it because it's super smooth. And I mean, Ian's great. And I
Yeah.
think he grows his own grapes and
Yeah.
he's a musician and he's such a cool guy.
Writer and a good
Yeah.
family man, and like I said, got a really funny, witty sense of humor and a bit of a cut up, So he hits all the marks for me. Like we met and had a great time at the vineyard. We sat out at the vineyard one day, just he and I. My first time meeting him, and we laughed and drank wine and talked, and then this manifested from there. This idea of doing this wine. And like I said, we've been in business for 2 years now, doing great, moving the meter slowly, but that's the way I love to do it. I'm not here to, to become, the Francis Ford Coppola and them or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, I do love the idea of a great wine. I do love presenting a good wine to friends and family, and it's been working out. And we've sold a great amount, and now our relationships are growing even more so. So, really cool, man. One of them things, Kenny, like you said, you don't even see it coming. It's a life moment. And I was doing it for charity for somebody else, and it actually turned into a great business with a cool friendship, meeting a lot of cool people, and being introduced into a world I didn't even know existed, like other dope winemakers and the culture, the podcasters, the blogs. It's just like, it's like a whole nother world of people that's like they do wine and that's what they love. You're like, all right.
That's what happened with me too. It's like it's completely. It wasn't for money. It was an opportunity. Somebody introduced me to Ian, and all of a sudden I was doing it. I was like, I knew nothing about the wine world, and so and the beautiful things we can get in our car and just drive up north. You don't have to go very far, and you're in all kinds of wine. Matter of fact, I'm playing with Sammy Hagar at Paso Robles in about 4 days up there.
That's
I
my
mean,
guy right there too. Tell Sammy I said
yeah.
what's up, man. We
Oh,
like,
you know Sammy? Yeah, man.
yeah, yeah,
Sammy, he
we
has a wine. He
yeah,
has a wine too.
wine and tequila. Yeah.
Well, one of these days it'll probably be almost impossible with our schedule. We got to go up to Ian's place and have a hang and do a
I
whole thing
love it.
up there. Yeah, that's so
Yeah, that'd
cool.
be awesome. That'd be real awesome. I love that. That sounds good, man. Let's do it.
How did you end up picking the? Did he send you bottles and you?
Yeah,
How'd you end
exactly.
up picking?
Yeah, that's the real process. Of course, like I said, I had an idea, like what I wanted to, like what I wanted it to represent. Like I said, I wanted to represent my mother. I knew that I wanted to start with a red wine because of,
Mhm.
her red hair and
Yeah.
skin tone. And so, and then I knew that she liked a more smoother, sweeter, fruit forward kind of wine. And so we end up doing that. We have a blend that's Cabernet, Syrah, and a bit of Merlot that gave it this beautiful bottom. So that's the Santa. That's the OG right here, man. That's the one right here. That's
Wow.
the OG right here. This is the one that started. And then we got the two new ones coming out, but I don't have those bottles yet, man. So because actually, Ian and I are going to meet this week in Atlanta and introduce them into the Total Wines and More stores of Georgia.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that stuff out. I did drink that one, the Soretta, that one up at the ESPY Awards, and I drank a lot of it because
Yeah,
one of those things is that once the glass is empty, hey, I'd like a little more.
Yeah,
So
exactly. But that, he like I think because he came from writing about wines. He was a writer for a magazine, and that put him in the valley like for many years, coming from like up in the Bay or whatever. And he was like just be there writing, and then he kind of like manifested into making wines, understanding the grapes, knowing what it was, and then his passion for it is one that rubs off on you, and next thing you know, you're like super engaged and needing to be up there when the grapes are going, and I go to bottlings, and when the harvest.
really
Like,
awesome.
yeah, you gotta be a part of it, man. Like it feels like it just gets more and more exciting the more he kind of tells you like what's going on.
I got to do that, man. I got to do it. Maybe we'll end up there at the same time. That'd be so
Yeah, that'd be
awesome.
fun, man. Yeah, let's go out.
Yeah. Where do you get your hard work, your drive, to create so much content? Because, it's like, I know for me, I just love, I wish I had 48 hours in a day because I'm just wired to work. I love it. Of course, what we're doing is it makes you feel so good. But where did that work ethic come from you? You just made that way, or it's just that you just love what you're doing, or both?
I think it's a little bit of both. I definitely, again, coming from St. Louis, very Midwest kind of town. It is grab your lunch pail, get the job done kind of folks. My uncle them, a lot of factory work, a lot of, little aeronautics work. But most of the people that I knew and grew up with, they work for the car companies or McDonnell Douglas or, so
Budweiser's there, right?
Budweiser, yeah, you
Yeah,
go down there. So it's a grab your boots, get your lunch
yeah.
pail, go to work, and do your business, right? It was that kind of mentality around there. And this is friends your age. They're like, because people want cars and they want things, but our parents couldn't really afford to get them for us. So kids would like get jobs and go to work, and and that was just the way it was for me too. So, and again, like I said, being the only male in a female household, my mother was just one that insisted on me being independent and being a man about it, and so and couldn't afford to make me a spoiled child, so she was like, if you want it, you got to go do this. And so I just always took that attitude. Even in celebrity, I was telling somebody this, even in celebrity, I still embrace it like a person that's got to earn it. I was at a family event, my wife's family the other night, and one of the younger kids was like, "Man, does this get on your nerves? Like everybody always coming up trying to talk to you. This got to get on your nerves. I know I would be mad if this was me." And I was like, "Why would you be mad, man?" I said, "Bro, like this is something people embracing you and coming up and saying they like what you do and they will love what you do. You can't be mad about that."
Yeah, I know what you're saying, man. It's like I don't mind signing autographs. I don't mind any of that stuff. And, there's this phrase I got: you can't set it and forget it. In other words, I mean, if you're a running back, one touchdown isn't enough. One Super Bowl ring. Look at Tom Brady. One Super Bowl ring isn't enough. It's like, why wouldn't you want to get two or three or four? I don't get it. When people say, I remember a very famous producer went, Kenny, what's your 5-year plan? What haven't you done that you? I'm like, dude, I have no 5-year plan. I'm just digging what I'm doing. I just love it. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And you can't set it, forget it, because people know me. I'm like the most prepared mofo. I will stay up. I can't go to bed thinking that everything's going to be okay tomorrow. I prepare, 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 prepare. People go, well, you already know those. That's like when someone said, well, you already know those Sammy Hagar, Van Halen songs. Know them? Yeah, I kind of know them, but I have to go over them a billion times because I haven't played them in a long time. So you can't set it and forget it. You work at it, and I love it. I love the process. I can tell you do.
I mean, that's really, I think that, that leads to great success. I'll tell young entertainers that too. A lot of people, of course, we live in a very microwavable society, a very, the TikTok of it all. Like one clip can make me famous, right? One little viral moment can make me feel like I have the same success you do because I've got everybody's attention in this moment, and yet you're not prepared to, like you say, to wake up tomorrow and do it again. It's it's the repetitions, it's the practice, it's the misses, the ones that don't hit, dog. Like when you be like, yo, like I thought this was gonna kill. And and you take a little scrape up on the knee, on the elbow or something, and you got to get back on that bike and go again. These things is what build, a great career, longevity, and a real fan base. That's what they're gonna love about you. Like you say, your preparation is something that is gonna be expected, right? When I come to a show, I know that you're gonna give me something that's gonna be like, yo, whenever I hear these songs, whenever I know like you're gonna get a solo or whatever, it's not gonna be because like, hey, I'm just talented and I'm just going off the dome. Like I am prepared to give you something special because that's what I want to do. Right. And that's it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just did this gig with Jim Irsay, playing with all these like Vince Gill, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, Peter Wolf from Jay Giles Band, just to name a few that were the special guests. Well, we did 11-hour rehearsal, but I went home back to my hotel that night and stayed up till 3 o'clock rewriting the charts. Woke up the next morning, day of the show, did 3 more hours rewriting the charts, putting them in my iPad because I read every note. I practiced the count-offs. I practiced the endings, the beginnings. Then we do the 4-hour rehearsal. Then I did the show. Man, I mean, I'm working all the way up to the last second, and you're right. I feel like I have to wow that audience when a guy like you, Cedric or Kenny Aronoff, shows up to do their thing. People expect A plus. They expect to be wowed. We're not computers. We're not robots. We're humans. And boy, you said it. Michael Jordan used to say, I'm great because I missed 1,000 baskets. I mean, those misses taught me, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, right?
Is definitely a part of it. And I'd say you attribute that to life. I got a son, 22. He's in college and he's a talented artist. And he's one of these guys though that, always gives himself a lot of stress about, missing or not having all the answers or not being really ready or whatever, right? And I'm like, son, like you can't fix it before you do it. Like, you can't fix a concert before the concert. Like, you could try, you can rehearse, you can do all those things, but what's going to happen at that concert is only going to happen at the concert. Like the fact that a girl might run on stage, or you don't know. That's totally different than rehearsal, bro. And you can't fix it before you're actually doing it. So get in there and take that and take those wins and those losses and that way to flow around and that way of learning, because you can't stop yourself looking for success by preventing yourself from even trying to be successful. You got to do it.
Oh man, you're spot on. I mean, I always say there was that moment where you pivot from being what you're talking about and then becoming a guy like Tom Brady or Mahomes, where if they get sacked, they're down 14 points. They got 3 minutes to the Super Bowl. These guys know they still can win the game. But so when they get sacked, of course they're disappointed. But man, they're like, okay, what did I learn from that? I got only 3 minutes to figure this out. I'm going to learn from that. We can't run the play that way again. And we're going to move these guys around. Next thing you know, they got 7 points, and then they somehow get another 7 points because the defense comes on, gets the ball back to them. I mean, they just blow past I don't even use the word mistakes or failures anymore. I just say those are events. They're helping me get touchdowns. But, when you're 22, I mean, that's that pivotal moment where people have to transition from feeling like I need everything to be perfect before I even do it. Well, that's not the way it works. Those things that don't work out actually make you great. That's what you're saying.
No, that's right. And of course, being prepared, doing your work, doing your grind, going through your routines. We were just talking about that, man. That's really, what life is all about, man. And so I try to take that into everything. Like again, like both of us kind of the same. We didn't know anything about wine, man. Like, and you wondered, do you have the skill set to be able to be a person that really exists here in a proper way? Do you, do you deserve it? Are you, any of the things that's like, that make you doubt yourself, should I even have the, respect of, the peers in wine that get up and do this every day? Or am I just using my celebrity? I'm doing all of that. How about that? But I do love wine, and I want to do, I'm doing, and I love wine, and I want my mama name to be recognized. And so deal with it.
Yeah.
But then again, you start to learn for real, you start to care for real. And next thing you know, you're actually, learning things and involved and able to really contribute. But again, you can't do that without getting up doing it. That's the only thing I say. So you take the L's, you take the hard days. I said somebody's a freshman always. At some point in time in your life, you're the freshman. You're the guy that got to carry the bags and get the coffee. And I don't care, and I don't care if you've been, like I say, if you've been a big deal somewhere else, when you coach in a new situation, you're the new guy. You got to just get that up, dog. Like even if you're a veteran in other ways, when you go into someone else's home, you got to remember you're the guest, and that's that. No matter how famous you are or whatever, you're the guest, man. You're at their house. You're doing it their way. Follow, be respectful, and then follow the norms, and try to and see if you can be a contribution.
Man, oh man, God, I wish I'd met your mom. I don't know, either you were born this way, a combination of that and your mom, boy, you got some really great fundamental stuff in place. Boy, oh boy, God, I congratulate you on that. So I think so. Did comedy came first before the acting, right? It sounds like it.
Yeah, yeah.
And the first acting thing was when you were 31. It was it in the you in the Wiz? Were you the lion?
That's on my resume, but that never actually happened. I got booked, and it never actually happened. So that's one of those things that's so interesting. It's on my resume, and everybody loves the fact. And I was like, man, I never, it was the thing they were doing the Wiz, redoing the Wiz, for like a TV thing, and it never happened. And so it was one of those things where it always shows up like, yo, you got booked as a cowardly lion. I'm like, I wish, but I never got to do it.
That's funny, man, because that's it's
Yeah,
all over the internet.
exactly. Of course. The Steve Harvey Show was my first big kind of acting thing. Well, I actually had landed a movie first. I did this movie called Ride. And it was a pretty cool movie. It was my first kind of acting job. And then I landed Steve Harvey Show that kind of put me in television on a regular basis, which was great.
So that movie, when you got that movie that you said about, was it have anything to do with comedy? It was just strictly acting.
Yeah, no, it was a comedic movie. Again, I was a stand up. I got, chosen. The producers were from St. Louis. The
Oh wow,
director was from St. Louis. So,
perfect.
but the movie had like Snoop Dogg in it, and it was kind of this coming of age story. And I got to play with the late great John Witherspoon, one of
Oh
my
wow,
comedic idols, and
yeah.
he was fun. And I got to play his younger brother, and so I was put into a good situation where it was easy for me to kind of. All I got to do is kind of show up, be ready, and then hold my spot down, and I'll win. And that's kind of what happened. And so, yeah, but it started with stand up, man.
Cool. And so now you wrote a book. Boy, that was the biggest pain in the butt. 4.5 years when I wrote my book. It was like edit, 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 edit. Did you ever? I'm sure you were like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like me, and you have to edit like a mofo. What is that? It's called Grown Ass Man, right?
Grown ass man.
So what is that? What is that book just roughly about?
So again, that was a grown ass man was really more of the kind of the story of me and how I came to be. You'll learn a lot
Mm.
about that, like the little town I grew up in first with my mother of Caruthersville, Missouri, and then us moving to St. Louis, and just how I kind of like end up being me. I tell the story about making my mother laugh and go to the ground, and just kind of this whole idea of how I got on this trajectory of being a comedian. That's one of my famous jokes is that, that I would respond to things by, somebody would ask you to do something. And I'd be like, man, I'm a grown ass man, dog. I'm not doing that. Like, it's like, hey, somebody like, hey, man, hit me up at 11 o'clock at night. Like, let's go out tonight, Sid. Let's go to the club. I'm a grown ass man, bro. I'm not going nowhere at 11 o'clock. Like, not anymore. Like, so,
Perfect.
so that's kind of where the whole thing is. And so, I just kind of used that as the name of the book, and it was off a very big joke I did. I think it's even in the Kings of Comedy. I do that, yeah, that joke.
I like that because it's like that name is you. You've been saying that. It's like it's not bullshit. It's like it's the real you. That everybody knows you knows that's what the title should be.
I got a new book coming out, man. I was looking for it.
Yeah.
So cool! Like I wrote a novel. And
Oh.
I wrote a novel, my first novel, and
Wow.
it was just on my desk.
What's the? I mean, that's fantastic. See, I wrote a book and I shelved it. I'm waiting. I've been editing it twice, and it's not ready yet.
Flipping Boxcars. So this is a novel about my grandfather who I never met. Yet I was, but I have all these great dreams about him and the things that he would do and the stuff he did. So I end up writing a novel about him based off some stories that my mother would tell me and some that my uncle would tell me. And then I just kind of expounded upon it and made this really crazy world of a cool guy in the 1940s living his life in a small riverboat city, just kicking it, man. And so it's a great caper mystery, and it comes out September 12th.
Oh man, I gotta check it out. I'll
Flipping
check it out.
Boxcars, it's dope.
That sounds amazing. All right, so I know that you just I did some research and I know were into cars, but when you were a kid, but I read that you actually worked on your cars. You worked on your cars. I mean, you were like inside the hood.
No, dude, this internet is crazy, bro. Like, no,
I was picturing you like a grease monkey. I mean, because Jeff Beck did that.
no, sir.
Oh
No,
my
man.
God. I was going to go like, do you still work on your cars? You can't be working on your cars. But you never did work on your cars.
No, man. No.
Boy, they're lying
Like,
on that
I'm like,
internet.
whoever these are, they hyping me up, man. They making me a good date. I'm using this. I can use this as a cool date profile or something. Like this guy, it's like all the girls that go horseback riding. That's like,
That's funny. You never worked on your cars. And I'm sitting there going like, wow, what? I was going to go like, what tools do you use? Did you
bro.
use those?
No, I am
That's
quick to
funny.
go find me a mechanic fast. Like, it's tough.
Well, St. Louis, the Midwest.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, you fucking.
Yeah, no,
That's
no,
great.
no.
That's great.
Even then, when I would do cars, like when I was younger, we would go and buy cars and do it. I had like two friends; they were really good at it, so I would help out. But I was definitely not the one like really flipping out a carburetor and changing over the flywheel and putting the belts on. They would do all of that, and I would have the tools. I would like loosen some stuff up for him. If he says take that off, unloosen that bolt. Okay, cool.
Well, I guess you were sort of a mechanic.
Yeah, I guess somebody can
God,
take this story and make it a lot greater than what it was, but no, sir.
oh my God. Well, I guess on the internet they said you were a heavyweight contender. No, joking. I mean, God, man, holy shit! Oh my God! So
Hey, boy, this is hype. I love it.
this is getting better by the minute. So tell me about your NFL career, being a running
Yes,
back.
so I did 9 years in Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Uh,
I took
yes,
Herschel Walker was my backup
yeah,
running
yeah.
back.
In that year, I dated Beyonce. Of course, they took.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Jay-Z, stepped in and knocked you out
Yeah,
of the way.
they knocked me out the way, man. God.
but he let you play on his record.
Yeah, yeah. Which was kind of an unfair trade, but fine.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, I feel real bad for you. I really feel bad. Your life's gone downhill ever since.
Terrible.
Oh man. So doing all the comedy and stuff, I mean, did that help? Was that kind of like that help with the acting and all these other mediums you're part of? I mean, did the comedy like give you this foundation?
For sure. I studied acting, I went to college and I majored in radio and television broadcast. So I had planned to be a news anchor of some sort. I actually had gotten a job at a CBS affiliate in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, to take the little small town where I went to school. And so, and that was early on. So this is mid to late 80s, and shows like Access Hollywood and this kind of entertainment news was coming on. And so it was like starting to be reporter jobs that were lighter. You weren't like doing the heavy news thing. You were kind of still being a reporter, still being a journalist, but you do something more entertainment based. And so, I was really launching up for that. And each network, each station started to have their own correspondent for that. So even in my college town, they had hired me to do that job, like do the fun stories, go out and make really cool stories of interest and then so but that never happened. Almost like the Wiz. I got hired and I never was able to go to work. Something ain't came up. And by the time my start date came, my job had lost all its funding. And so they had lost the money and they was like, sorry. And so that's when I had to go and regroup. And I went back to St. Louis and, worked in sales and bounced around a little bit and was a substitute school teacher, and then, eventually landed at State Farm and and worked there but landed at State Farm and discovered I could do stand up kind of simultaneously. So the moment I get a really good secure job that I can make it on, I found my passion. And so
Yeah.
I just ride them two together until one
Yeah.
became like, all right,
Smart.
cool. And I trust now I can go and take off and be this comedian.
Maybe your next book would be That Never Happened, but This Did. That never happened, but this
Hey,
did.
man, I got a whole kid on there too. I got a kid on there that I don't have, but that's a running joke in my family because everybody goes, "Who is this person, Dad?" I was like, they got me with a whole other daughter named Tinky Fly. We don't know where she comes from.
The comedic thing must have been awesome for when you host. When you host, I've seen you host. I mean, you're just sitting there teed up to, and you have to be clever, of course, depending on who you're talking about.
Yeah, you usually, you're responsible for being that master of ceremony for a night of flow. And then, the idea of like, what you bring to the room, what are people are doing, how do you kind of keep this elevated and at the same time move the program along, because that's usually the thing about hosting as well, is that there is an agenda. Like you gotta, like these people like gotta be out this building by 11 o'clock. Like I don't care how funny you are. They're like, bro, when these union fees keep I'm coming to you. Like you gotta be wrapping this up. So
Yeah.
the idea of knowing that you have a great responsibility of one, elevating the room, having the people be energetic and being able to support whatever the message is for that night is a really great job to have. And as a comedian, it's great because you get to just be in charge of it. And hopefully, I always say it's like riding a stagecoach, right? Like you got all these horses in front of you and they got all this power, and it's your idea to kind of create what what to them feels like you're in charge, but they know that they actually the ones in charge. They got all the power pulling me. But if I give you these straps and I do these things, somehow you think I'm running things. So that's the thing about being on that stage as a comedian. You the maestro of like, yo, like let me take the energy here. And if you let them off, that's the other thing. If you ever let them out of and they realize like the barbarians can run the building, then that's the worst thing you could do as a comedian is give up your room and let people start talking, and then when the crowd start talking to each other and you lose them. It's a very rough thing, man. And we don't have we don't even have the assistants always say of a great drum beat or a guitar riff or something
Yeah.
to help
Right.
people.
The microphone.
Yeah, and you got to be like, yo, here it is. This is what I'm saying. Blah blah blah. And and again, anybody knows a good orator when they see one, be it a politician or a preacher or anybody that can like deliver a message, a good motivational speaker. And then there's people that bore you to death, like a science teacher or somebody that you grew up with. You like, oh, this man, he
Yeah.
just can't tell a good story or nothing. Like, come on, man. Like, I need something here.
That's why I respect you a lot. I was talking to Bill Burr about that a while ago. It was like, God, I'm on stage. If something gets squirrely, I got like all these people around me. We can share it. I got a drum set. You are sitting there with a microphone.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, and you don't have a bandmate. You know what I mean? You don't have a
Yeah.
teammate. It's you, man. And so, like, at this point in your career, I'm sure you read the script, but you're so good at being in flow. You can, like, go out of the script, bounce around. But I bet at the beginning, it was like, oh my God, I got to read every word perfect,
Yeah.
right?
Of course.
Terrified.
Yeah, no, and it's one of those things. You're right. You have this anxiety that if you lose it, like again, like if you lose that moment and that it goes off the rails, it's the thing that we fear most as comedians, because if it goes off the rails, it's very, very hard to get it back on. And of course, the larger the crowd, the harder it is, right?
Right.
And so and sometimes it's worse because sometimes small crowds are worse because they actually feel like they're literally there as a part of it. Like, in comedy clubs, once somebody's drunk or talking, it's just hard to get them back on track. Usually in a bigger crowd, you can like, hey, all right, cool. Let me get this side of the room to basically shut that guy down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Dude,
small room, it can be tough, man.
yeah. Lately, in the last 2, 3 years, has it been more challenging, because everybody's so polarized and you got to be careful you don't say that and you got to be careful you don't say that. And, could the comedians, I mean, that's got to be rough because you're joking about everything, but everybody's like so uptight about everything.
Yeah.
Is that a challenge?
I mean, it's one that I haven't embraced as a thing. It is, we are in a super socially, politically correct world. You don't, you go and you call somebody by the wrong pronoun, and they can be extremely offended, and these kind of things, or the polarizing nature of our politics. With everybody on one real hard line in the sand or the other. About nonsense and not looking at that we just exist as human beings. So you recognize that little things can start arguments, but I think as a comedian, our main job is to go up there and be a person to put the mirror on the world, man. So,
Yeah, yeah.
if you do it with a degree of respect and understanding that everybody does have their truth and they got the things that they believe and they like. And I'm not here to be disrespectful to your way of life. I just got a point of view on it, right? And this is my point of view. And so, I think those are things you got to trust, because if you decide like I'm gonna try to make everybody happy, then you never make yourself happy, for one, and you don't take the chance to either stretch the world or have people have a counter or a dissenting opinion, which leads for conversation and growth, right? So sometimes being the contrary person is perfect, because I'm opposite of what you're saying, but I'm not being disrespectful. I just got a point of view that this is it. And if it made you laugh and it made all these people laugh, then okay, it could be a little offensive, but let's talk about it. Let's not just be mad about it. Let's talk about it. Why did that resonate? Why did people love it? Because to a certain degree, they feel like they got this point, right? And that's that. And so, or it's true to people. And so that's a touch and go subject, but it's one thing that comedians, they gotta have the right to do. Yeah, we used to do that before it was, we was just talking about like Eddie Murphy's whole, he one of the greatest comedians ever.
Yeah.
And raw or delirious, or you couldn't even show them specials in today's climate. Like he couldn't even shoot them.
Yeah.
Because in today's climate, so much that he said was completely offensive and unacceptable. And yet, at the time he did it, it was just like, all right, so you got to be honest that that in as an entertainer, you live in your moments, you live in the time that's here, and so therefore you can't really hate on or be mad at the playing field. It's the field, and so now you got to go out there and just deal with what you got to do. And 10 years from now, this won't even be a thing, right? Because life moves on and people get on a whole nother soapbox and they be like, oh, that was a whole thing. You're like, yeah, that was a whole thing in 2000, 23. You couldn't say this, you couldn't talk about that or whatever, right? But now people don't even give a shit.
My dad was the coolest. He was my dad, he obviously had foundation. I mean, he was in the bomber, did the last 13 missions that took out Hitler, those big bombers that flew over Berlin. But he was a very open-minded man. And one of the biggest things I like about him was that he would listen to anybody. I don't care what opinion they had. If they were completely opposite of his opinion, he was completely honored discussion.
Yeah.
That was the cool thing. He honored discussion. That was the umbrella. Everybody should be able to speak. Listen, I may disagree, but let's have a discussion. That was the coolest thing about
It's
one
the
of my.
best, man. It's always fun when you meet people like that, right? Where you can sit and there's a little bit of, little, volleying, a little back and
Yeah,
forth, like, oh,
yeah.
oh, you got that.
Why not?
Okay, oh, nice. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right, yeah.
yeah.
That leads, you're right. It stretches you. It gives you an opportunity. And of course, sometimes you can become completely enlightened and able to change in these moments because one, a lot of times our ignorance about a subject matter is the reason why we feel some way. We never even met these people before. We never sat down and talked to somebody that we feel different about. And then when you meet them, you're like, oh, okay, you know, the Amish, they actually are cool. Like, I see them with the little horse and buggy, but once you meet an Amish dude, you be like, oh my man, cool though. Like he chill. Yeah, he don't watch
Oh, man.
television and he don't have a phone, but as a human being, like he a solid dude. Like, those kind of things. You just be surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, I totally agree. All right, so I see there's a basketball behind you and a helmet. So you're a sports guy, right?
Oh
You
yeah,
got to be St. Louis, at least the Cardinals. Come on.
Cardinals for sure. Again, we used to have the Rams there on
Yeah.
a great run. But the baseball Cardinals are just like one of those consistent things that's been a part of our lives. And we never had we never had an NBA team. We used to have an old ABA team a long time ago, way before my time. But but baseball and football are really big, and now it's a great little soccer team there. So, yeah, but sports
Did you
was
play? Did you
yeah,
play sports?
I played football and basketball, for a little bit, but ended up leaning more towards the arts. I was saying I was lived in a single parent household, so I was at football practice one time. My mom came to get me, and I'm a young dude, and I'm wearing some dress socks I got on my tube socks and I got on some black socks that I thought made my outfit look better, right? My uniform.
Yeah.
And coach saw it and was like, hey, fancy dancer, and made me the tackle dummy for all the linemen. And when my mom comes to pick me up, that's what she sees. She sees these big kids just running, boom, knocking me down, hitting me, dragging me. She was like, nah. I'm like, no.
What position besides that day? What was your position?
So it was a wing back. It used to be like a
Yeah.
kind of fullback
Yeah.
wing back
Yeah.
situation. And then I played a little defense. They had me like in a like I was kind of
Backer.
yeah, it was like a little linebacker role, like but I didn't play. We had some really good kids that played it more, so I was like a second string, third string dude on the defensive side. But I had really good balance, and I was like kind of a bigger kid, so I ran like a fullback, but had great balance. So
Good.
that's where they had me on the football.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a total sports. I was a rock jock, as they call me. I had the long hair.
Nice.
Coaches were always like, cut your hair. I cut it like that much. They say, cut it again. I kept trying to get it up higher and higher.
Hey man, I got a gig this weekend, bro.
Dude, don't you know I'm never going to have hair after I'm 18? Let me have my hair.
Yeah, come on, bro. Yeah.
All right, so if all of a sudden you weren't acting, doing comedy and all these incredible things you're doing, is there something that what would you do? I know you do something. There's no way a guy like you doesn't just stop. There's no retirement in your vocabulary,
Yeah.
right?
No,
No.
I'm pretty much an entrepreneur by nature. I'm like a person that's always kind of creating things and looking forward to developing things. We toy with a little real estate. I've got a new barbecue line coming out with Anthony Anderson. We're actually in Walmarts right now, so we're in 2,300 Walmarts around the country. AC Barbecue, that's what it's called. Anthony and Cedric, but AC Barbecue. It's fun. We got a show coming out. You can watch it, the show on A&E starting August 14th. Gonna be fun. We did it
What's the show called?
called Kings of Barbecue. The Kings of Barbecue.
Oh,
You'll start seeing posters for it or whatever. But basically, we recognized that it was not a national barbecue brand that somebody had really endorsed. And so we created one and then created a great partnership. We got Walmart and in talks with Lowe's and Home Depot for our tools and spatulas and tongs. And then we're going to introduce grills, next summer. But we got, spices, rubs, sauces, and also looking at doing a couple of little pop-up restaurants. So we're really growing it in a big business. I want to do these big, Coachella-esque smoke-offs, where, everybody come and cook. And, so I'm trying to
oh
create.
man.
Yeah, we're gonna have a good time with this.
That's phenomenal. Actually, people don't realize how that's a lot of work, a lot of people involved to get something so simple like that out there. Everything from strategy, marketing, buildings. I mean, you get in Walmart's not easy. That's a lot of work. It's such a simple idea, but I'm here to tell everybody this is massive 24/7, every day of the week,
Yeah.
to get that to happen. But dude, listen, I won't keep any longer, man. It was so cool hanging with you. I feel like I grew up with you or something.
Yeah,
And I'll see you down the road, and maybe we'll end up at the winery together. But man, have a great day, the rest of your week, the rest of your year, whatever.
yeah, man.
Thank you.
You too, Kenny. Appreciate it, man. This is fun, man, and it's good. You keep it up, man. Good.
I will. I will.
Let's coordinate it. I love to hang with you, bro. Let's do it. Let's get one.
You got it, man. I can't wait.